So last year, I started to mine helium, and now I have a tiny fleet that I'm looking to expand. But to get to this point, I've had installs that I thought would do great, and it turned out it was a complete waste of time, and I soon had to relocate my miner to a new, profitable location. You see, I was so eager to make the most out of my miners that I would find myself doing things I would have never done before. And today on this crypto channel, I'm sitting on a tree branch, trying to get some more crypto coins. Oh boy. Most of us have the same journey. We order our miners, and then we wait. And then the miners come in. Oh my god. As soon as you turn your first miner online, you are now a crypto miner. Now, when you first start mining helium, you know nothing, but you want to learn everything. So you find all the tools out there that exist. But now you end up overwhelmed and you don't know what tools to use, and now you're back to square one. Then you nervously ask yourself, is my miner going to be profitable? Over the last 6 months, I have refined the tools that I use into a few simple checks that you can use to give you that confidence that you want to have before installing that new antenna or before installing a new hotspot in a brand new location. You see, common questions that come up are, where should I put my miner? Is it too late to succeed here? Or does it make a difference if I move over 1 hex? Let's start off by understanding as to why you're getting paid for mining. So at the time of this video, there is very little data going through our devices. So therefore, right now, we're actually only getting paid to essentially build the network. So therefore, the better coverage you provide, the more you get paid. Now, I do want to annotate that there is a difference in building a hotspot that makes the most money and making a hotspot that provides the best coverage. Now, they both run parallel very closely to each other, but most people aim to make the most money by picking something like a directional antenna. Therefore, they would deny coverage to other areas of the map. I personally want the project to succeed, so I get omnidirectional antennas in most of my locations, and I set up most of my antennas where there's a lot of development and future growth to come. Now, having said that, we will circle back to this part very soon. Let's take a look at my area in Houston, just because I know the area. But even if you don't know your area, watch how we're gonna just decipher this. So the Explorer is actually one of my favorite tools, and it's because I use it with a strategy instead of just looking at it like this, okay? So as soon as you go to the Explorer app, this is the first thing that you're going to see. Go ahead and click on the bottom right and click on the transmit scales. Here you can start to see where the green is. Now, I know if you watch my channel, we have gone over this, but we're gonna go over just a little bit more in depth about how I plan every single one of my installs. So for those of you who don't know, red is dead and green is good. The higher the green, the better the rewards in that area. Okay, let's just keep it simple. And what we're going to look for, guys, is we're going to look for an area where there's not too much congestion. It may sound redundant, but this is the first step. In my opinion, I have a couple areas already that I like. For example, here, here, and here. Right, those are the areas that I usually aim for. And if you look at my installs, most of them are over here. I have maybe 1 or 2 over here in this area, and then I have one down here, which I'm aiming for over here. But nevertheless, I plan my installs so I can be away from the red as much as possible. The next step you're going to want to do is you're going to kind of zoom into the area that you're thinking of. Say you have a friend here, or maybe you have some family over here that you want to put your hotspot, or maybe you live over here. If you don't know anyone over here, maybe you figure out a business, maybe you figure out a public area where you can just put an off-grid miner. Whatever the case may be, this is going to be the area we're going to use them for right now. So once you zoom in, you start to see how many hotspots are in a certain hex. For example, we have 10 hotspots in this hex, and if you click on it, you get to see all the hotspots here. Now, this is kind of ridiculous, but like even some of them are still making above 8 HNT in 1 month, which is fairly well. Not the best, not what I aim for, but this lets you know that there is potential over here. So now you find your location and you realize that, hey, there's not too many hotspots in a hex. There's not 10 in a hex. Maybe there's 3, or maybe there's 1 only, or maybe it's empty, right? This is what you want to do. You want to see if you can find an empty hex, if possible, surrounded by other hexes just like this. That would be great. Or maybe you can start to build off the side right here as well. You will also be getting some good rewards as well. As you're not really clashing into the other hexes, you do get penalized for overpopulating and oversaturating an area. And this is exactly why you start to see this happen over here, just because overall this is one big hex and it's starting to get too many miners inside this big hex. If you guys want to know what I'm talking about, this is hotspotty. So if I click on resolution 4, and once I've scrolled back up, you can start to see these hexes here. These are the neighbor hexes. This is what I'm talking about. If I scroll out, you actually start to see that there are hexes within hexes within hexes. This is a hex, this is a hex, this is a hex, but now there are more hexes. So this is one big hex. Now, if you go back over to the chart, if you zoom out, you start to see why there's a clear cut line. You know, this is the hex right here as to why you know, there's a clear separation here. This part of the hex up here has a really good transmit scale. Again, with this hex up here, it has a relatively lower side transmit scale, but it's still pretty high compared to, you know, the middle of Houston, and so on and so forth. Now, why am I talking about this? Let's just go back down here. I have a hotspot somewhere right here, and when I first put this hotspot, this was all green as can be. Even though I'm kind of further away from everyone else, my hotspot still turned out to be red because this is overall in this big hex right here. But eventually this hex here all turned red almost simultaneously because it's all the same hex. Once too many hotspots start to bombard the big hex, then the transmit scales of all of these hotspots are going to gradually start to come down. This is why I mentioned in the beginning that I like to put my hotspots in areas where there is development coming by or in the future. That way I know that, you know, there's not really too much population over here, but it's still enough to keep the network growing over time and slowly, so that way our network has longevity. Now, I know that this is not ideal for everyone. This is not necessarily realistic for everyone, but if you can do this, this is a good idea, especially if you have a ton of hotspots and you're looking to do off-grid, or you're looking to put them somewhere else besides your friends or your family or even your own houses. Going for something like this is probably a really good idea. So now that you have your hotspot picked out, you have your location, you have the hex that you want to put it in, how do you know if it's going to make a lot of money? Well, let's go over one more time to the bottom right hand side, click on this, and then click on the earnings, the top bubble. Now we're going to look for blue. Blue is good, red is dead. Okay, so blue means that they're the highest earners, and red means obviously they're the worst earners. So just for an example, I'm going to say that I want to put my hotspot right here. So what I would do if I were you, and this is what I do actually, I go and click on all of the blue ones in this area. And I just I write down what kind of setups they have. Even if you don't write it down, just make a mental note of what is going on. So we're not going to do this in this video because it's going to take a lot of time. But for example, I like to aim for something that has 16 HNT. And then if it makes 16, 15 HNT a month, then I start to really pay attention to what they're doing. So we're going to click on this, and then it shows us that this person has an 8 dBi antenna and he's 8 meters tall. So 10 meters is approximately 30 feet. This right here could mean that he's on top of a 1-story house, or barely maybe even on top of a 2-story house. At the time of this video, the network is not really cooperating with us, but let's just look at a 30-day mark instead of the past couple of days. On average, this hotspot makes 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 HNT in a day. And then I move on to the next hotspot. I click on the next blue one. This one makes 5 HNT. I'm not really impressed, so I'm going to skip it. Go to the next one. This one makes 7. I'm really not also impressed, so I'm going to skip it. Also makes 7. These past 3 or 4 hotspots have made 5 or 7 HNT, and I ask myself why is that so common over here? Well, it's probably because they're further down over here, and an omnidirectional antenna would not really serve them too much over here in terms of making money. So let's start to go up where they are surrounded. For example, we are going to be surrounded. I think I said I wanted a hotspot right here. So we're going to be surrounded by many hotspots. So let's just see what happens. So we're going to click on this one. This one has 11. So let's click on this. Also has an 8 dBi antenna, says to be 14 meters high. So that's about 40 to 45 feet in the air. We're going to go to the next blue hex, go to this one down here. This person right here is making almost 11 HNT in a month. So I'm going to see what he got. He's got a 1.2 dBi antenna with the sense cap at 0 meters high. So that's really cool. So this is exactly what I look for. So 30-day mark, this guy on average makes 0.3, 0.4, 0.4, right, with a 1.2 dBi. So again, you start to see that these people have different setups, and some things might work out for you. Very often you're sold on just one antenna, and just by looking at these hotspots that are doing well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can see what hotspots, what antennas are working. So this hotspot here has a 12 dBi antenna, 12 meters high, makes 9 HNT in a month. I'm gonna come up top tier to see what else we have. Okay, we got this one right here, makes 13 HNT in a month. This is what I'm talking about, ideal. This person also has a 1.2 dBi antenna. So far we have actually the antennas that make the most in this area are 1.2 dBis. It sounds to me like it's probably the stock antenna from a sense cap. Now this one's making 15 HNT in a month. Another one, this is a Bobcat with the 1.2 dBi. If you look at the average, this antenna is making 0.4, 0.5, 0.4, 0.5, 0.5, 0.6. And so this is essentially what I do. I just scan the area to see what's already working, what's not. And then usually when I get there, I scan the area when I'm driving. I like to see what I'm going to be working with. I like to see if there's any really tall buildings or schools or stadiums, gas stations, anything really that's going to get in the way of my signal. But then one of the most important things that I think you should be doing, especially if you follow this channel closely, is we love to use the elevation tool. And although I did not start off using this tool, I really wish that I would have started with this tool. It would have saved me a ton of extra rework that I had to do. So let's go over the elevation tool. Now, why do I go over the elevation tool? This is a real life scenario that I haven't really talked about too much, but let's just say that you're trying to decide between two locations. You want to know if whether you should put your hotspot in this area or if you should put it over here. Viable questions, which one would pay you better or which one would have better longevity. And this is why I like to use the elevation tool. If one side is extremely higher than the other, then I would prefer to use the side that's much higher. For example, I'm just going to pick two locations here in this area. This is the green area on the right hand side of the map that we're looking at, and these are standing between 15 and 3 meters off of the ground. We move this marker over just a tad bit and we got to see that still we are only 13 meters off of the ground over here. But just one location over here, just gonna put it somewhere randomly, put it over here. We can start to see that the blue marker is actually 51 meters off of the ground. Therefore, I would be much more inclined to pick up this location just because of the natural relative elevation to everyone else around me. Now to draw it out, guys, because you know I like to draw, what does that look like, you know, just from the naked eye? Well, for the right hand side, even if we do a 30-foot flagpole, right, the poles are the same. This antenna here is going to be obviously reaching a much higher distance. There's much less things that are going to be in the way as far as elevation. Trees, houses, gas stations, all that stuff is still applicable. But once it clears that area, once it clears this obstruction, this noise here, the trees, houses, gas stations, whatever you guys can imagine, once it clears this, we have a bigger chance of going over even further and pinging more and more hotspots way out here. Then if your elevation is, you know, almost negligible, a 30-foot flagpole install, same amount of money spent, is not going to reach that much further than its elevation. And this is what I call personally just leveraging elevation. Is that the proper term? I don't know. But in my opinion, this is how I leverage elevation to my advantage. So if you put all of this together, you can probably get a really good hotspot. And even as new hotspots come online, since maybe you've planned out a location that's not too overcrowded, it's not going to be penalizing you as fast as other areas that are just consuming more and more hotspots exponentially faster than you are. Now, if you're looking to do more installs down the road, maybe you're looking to buy more hotspots, we are coming out with a tool that's going to help you do this. It's actually going to take the same kind of math and approach that I do, and we're going to just make it automatic. So it gives you a list, gives you a little bit of a format, and helps you gather all that information instead of having to spend about 20 to 30 minutes just kind of running through all of these hotspots on the map. We'll be able to give you a detailed report with the same approach so that we can help you plan out more hotspots and have a tool that you can rely on. Now, with that being said, guys, I hope you appreciate these kind of videos. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe. I will be seeing you guys in the next video.